We are live. Yeah. All right.
Yay.
Well, you guys can start.
Yep.
Welcome to the abortion debate, if you know what I mean. You know. Well, we're talking about abortion. So,
Yeah, pro-choice versus pro-life, that sort of thing. Whoever wants to start can start.
Anti-abortion. We're anti-abortion.
yeah, shut up. Okay, they don't play that. All right. You guys can go.
Ella, do you want to start? Okay. No? Okay, I'll start. Give me 1 second to switch through tabs. Okay, so for my opening statement, what I'm saying is being pro-choice doesn't mean that you support abortion. It just means that you want women to have a choice what they want to do with their body, and abortion isn't murder.
Okay.
All right. I think. Yeah, should I do the opening statement?
Go for it.
All right. So we are anti-abortion. I believe that conception, personhood begins with human life as well. This is backed up by many reputable universities and institutions such as Princeton and the National Center for Biotechnical Information, and also known as the NCBI or the NCBI, in which they state that the only consistent line that personhood can begin is at conception. This is simply because of the reasoning capacity. I believe abortion is morally wrong because of this. My question to you guys is, what would be the standard for personhood and why?
Could you repeat your question really quick? I'm sorry, it cut out.
What is your standard for personhood and why?
Okay. Oh.
All right, so personhood is just like, when do you think it's like not permissible?
Yeah.
Yeah, abortion.
Let me actually clear here.
I just want to make sure that Ella, can you hear us?
Bro, I feel like she's like, I don't know. Yeah,
I can't hear you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Pedro, you're my boy.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. You can speak. You guys can speak.
Okay, so for personhood, like my personal definition, Ella, I can't hear if you're talking, so you can just nod along if you agree for now, I guess, is to have like brain activity and an actual heartbeat, because a lot of people say that a heartbeat is at 6 weeks, but that's really just a little flutter in the chest where the heart will be, and that's backed up by a reliable source, and I'm looking through my sources right now. Okay, live science. It's backed up by live science, saying that really, at 6 weeks old, it's just a little flutter where the heart will be, but it's not an actual heartbeat. So for personhood, brain activity and a real heartbeat.
So like around like 6 to 7 weeks. Because you gotta like define brain activity, because brain activity could mean the first brain activity is like 6 weeks, 7 weeks, I think, or 5 weeks. I'm not sure. It's 5 to 7 weeks is when like the first brain activity can be detected in the fetus. So like, it might have to be more specific. I'm not sure if like, yeah.
So I mean, give me 1 second. Sorry, Ella, you want to continue?
Yo, I don't think I can hear you.
Sorry about that. Anyway, so also just counting with pain, with brain activity, being able to tell if the fetus can actually feel pain, which doesn't happen till about the 3rd trimester, and the percentage of 3rd trimester abortions is really, really low. So I mean, like the type of brain activity where it actually has the ability to feel pain. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but I hope.
Well, those like I think we're referring to like noxious stimuli. Those noxious stimuli, like when the baby can feel pain, they're formed at like 8 to 10 weeks. So like they don't know, like the scientists, they know how they feel pain. No, they don't know how they feel pain, but they know they feel pain somewhere after 8 to 10 weeks.
Right.
Abortion, because the noxious stimuli is detected and that determines whether you can feel pain or not. It's just there's like universal agreement on it. It's just like how they can feel pain.
Yeah, which is definitely a fair point, and I agree. Like, which is why 65.4% of women who have an abortion actually have it before the fetus is even at 8 weeks, and that's by Guttmacher is the source. So yeah, I agree. I think we can all agree, pro-choice or pro-life, that at some point the fetus can feel pain, and I think it's around 8 to 10 weeks.
Wait, so is pain one of your standards for personhood? Is pain right?
Pain and like the brain activity associated with pain, as well as like an actual sort of heartbeat.
Okay, so somebody, I forget the disability, but these people, they are not able to feel pain. So are they not humans because of that? Or are they not people?
No. So they're still humans. I mean, they're still humans, but when describing my status for personhood, considering like a fetus, of course, there are definitely genetic mutations. That doesn't mean that they're not a human, but the overarching thing for me is like a heartbeat and brain activity to the like advanced brain activity to the point where they can feel pain. But if you can't feel pain, mutations are natural. I mean, naturally unnatural, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
And most of these, like, I think you're talking about, like, are you for abortion like 20 weeks, 21 weeks?
no, so I believe that the woman should always have a choice, but like I said, at some point we can all agree that it's a baby, like it's an actual baby. The question is when. Third trimester abortions are like really late term abortions. I don't agree with those because I feel like at that point it's actually a baby. It's not just cells that can't really feel anything, that don't really have brain activity. It's an actual baby. I don't know how to describe it exactly.
Fetus is a baby, so that.
Right, but I mean, by 21 weeks, like any late term abortions are not something that I tend to agree with. The only exception I can think. Oh, 1 second. With me? She agrees. Okay, Ella, if you want, you can try and text me, and I can communicate for you via text.
Why can't she speak? Is something wrong?
I don't know. I think that we can't hear her, but I think is there like something. There must be something going on her end. She just started typing, but so the only exception I can find for like late term abortions and like the third trimester or later, is if it will literally kill the mother if she has the child, which I guess, and even then she should have had an abortion earlier. But if it's going to get to the point where it will kill the mother and the child, or just the child, I feel like we can agree that one death is better than two.
Wait,
Right.
Why do you not think the unborn's life starts at conception? Just like a point of view, like why doesn't it? Like this, like try to disprove me. Like why doesn't the unborn baby's life? It's the definition of a fetus, unborn baby. Why doesn't it start at conception?
Okay, so for me, the reason it doesn't start at conception is it's just at that point it's just a fertilized egg. It's not really formed at all. All it is just the clump of cells has been like, okay, eventually someday you could become a baby, but like I feel like life doesn't really start until you have a heartbeat and like a lot of brain activity, because like it's the difference between a clump of cells and then where the fetus is at 21 weeks. Oh, what?
Oh my gosh, I'm scared.
I can hear you now.
Okay, you can. Oh no, now I'm on the front lines. I'm scared.
Okay. So with that, you said
It's
not
so peaceful on the other side.
So as you're saying, you said that it's not fully developed. I can agree that it's not fully developed, but if you look into this quote unquote clump of cells, the DNA in there literally decides everything. Their race, right? Their eye color, their hair color, their all these other factors.
Oh,
So
Joyce. What?
Yeah. So while the DNA may be there and show like what it will be, the thing is at that point, and I understand, like I'm not telling every woman to go out there and like, have an abortion because you know what? Personally, like, you know what? If you like, how do I describe this? Okay. I want as many, babies to be born, but I don't like the government having control over women's bodies. So, like, I think with the DNA, it's like the potential for life, right? But
No, what? No. Sorry.
oh, I thought you were talking to me. But
No, sorry. I didn't mean. Sorry.
it's okay. But right, and okay, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. It's really late. Okay.
yeah, just freedom of choice. I mean,
Yeah.
is that basically what you're trying to get at?
Yeah. So I'm pro-choice, but you know what? The potential for life is there, right? And I definitely agree that you know what? It has the potential for life, but it's not at the point where having an abortion would be morally wrong. If it's just like a clump of cells and if it can't feel pain, it doesn't have a heartbeat, and there's no brain activity, it's not morally wrong. And personally, I just think it's morally wrong to try and control women's bodies, which is not like a personal attack. That's just
Well, what about comatose like patients, like permanently comatose individuals? They don't necessarily, they're in a vegetative state. They don't necessarily have brain activity. They don't necessarily have any of that. And they're living off something, obviously, and they're very dependent. What about those? What about those people?
So you're saying like why
Can you be more specific?
yeah.
People in a coma.
Like which kind?
People in a coma.
Yeah.
Coma.
So you're saying that like you're
They
kind
are
of comparing like the clump of
Technically,
cells
but
to like the people in a
what-
coma.
in that
Well, clump of
situation,
cells is
yes, they are
the
living.
start. Like you can call it a clump of cells, but like that's literally the start of life. And when you're coming in, when you're in a coma, you're usually you're not very likely like this. That's towards the end of your lifespan. So I mean, personally, I don't think it's that comparable, but it's pretty comparable in the sense that brain activity is not detected when you're in a vegetative state, and I just think it's a disruption in the natural process of human life.
All right, Dan, my Ellis, please, you saying something. Oh, is that what you're gonna say?
Me?
Hmm?
Sorry, it's Ella. What were you gonna say, Ella?
Wait, me?
Yeah, you
I
were
was
saying
gonna say something. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember. Sorry. Maybe if you talk again, I'll remember.
Yeah. So I think I agree with you with the fact that you can and you cannot compare with like fetus, clump of cells, whatever you want to call it, to someone in a coma because of the lack of brain activity. And I think that at that point, just like it's the woman's choice, if she wants to end the pregnancy, I think it should be up to the people who knew them best if they were to end them. But I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. But for people in a coma, they're already fully formed. They still have a heartbeat, and they can feel pain at that point in their life. Most people, so it depends on their situation.
Not under anesthesia, they can't feel pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with abortions that that are like I think they're late trimester, like maybe second
like third trimester.
Late second, maybe third. I'm not sure, but they're going under anesthesia. So like your like things of like your standards of pain wouldn't necessarily apply because you're going under anesthesia. So the baby wouldn't feel pain either way.
Okay. I'm sorry, it keeps cutting out. Could you repeat what you said? It just cut out for
I
me.
said when the baby could feel pain in your standard, like you said, 20 weeks or whatever. Yeah. So like those babies are put under anesthesia and they can't feel pain. So like, when is like your real standard of where to draw the line? Because that's obviously not a good way to draw the line because they can't even feel pain during that abortion.
Okay, so where to draw the line, I think, is at the point where, okay, how am I supposed to? So when people in general, like if pro-lifers were to bring up feeling pain, that's why I mentioned it. But so I'm sorry, I am losing my train of thought. What was I saying? Okay, so the cutoff line for me is when it's actually formed to the point where if it were to be born like the next couple days, then it would be functioning. It wouldn't just be
All right.
not able
Well,
to.
Wait, so you like switch? Well, I don't mean to be mean here, but so like you switch your standard from like feeling pain, brain activity to like when like the third trimester. Like did I like misinterpret that or?
Okay, so I mean, third trimester in general is when like they can feel, when the fetus at that point can start to feel pain. And I'm aware it's put under anesthesia, but if it wasn't, it could start to feel pain. And I'm sorry, I'm just gonna check my sources because I don't want to say anything that's incorrect, just because, to be fair. And yeah, they can't feel pain until the third trimester. And I'm just double checking my sources really quick.
Well, okay, so you said that if it were born, it would be perfectly fine, like in the next few days. So the word for that is viability, but viability can be can vary within countries, right? So let's say in Lagos, Nigeria, they're not going to have the same technological advancements as America. So that baby will probably be better off, let's say, 30 something weeks instead of America being 22 weeks. There's a big difference.
Yeah. And that's another thing that I struggle with in general, to be completely honest, is the fact that in underdeveloped countries or like third world countries, if abortion is illegal, then it ends up causing death for not only the fetus or the baby at that point, but also for the woman. Like, which is why I think abortion should be legal, because if abortion was illegal, not only would it result in the termination of the pregnancy, it could end up killing the woman due to them trying to perform abortions in their own home. And if they do give birth to the child, especially if it's like in a third world country, the child could not live if it may not be able to survive, nor the mother, if it's not viable based off of how advanced the medical is. So for me, that's why I'm just I am pro-choice, because I want them to get to choose if they want to have the baby, if they think it's safe to have the baby, based off of their medical standards and where they live. And yeah. Ella, do you want to add anything? Sorry, I've been talking a lot.
All right. So you said if it like gets illegalized, women will get unsafe abortions.
Yeah, it can lead to unsafe abortions, and which will end up causing 2 deaths instead of.
All right.
I was actually going to bring that up quickly.
Yeah.
About that. So with illegal abortions, it'd be done by medical professionals. It wouldn't be done in the back alley of the coat hanger. You know, the classic. I don't know how to say it. It's just like a classic little thing going on with people's brains. Oh, illegal abortion means back of the alley, dangerous. No, it would just be done by medical professionals, but it could just be legal.
Yeah, I understand. And I think it's good that they have medical professionals that will do that. I just think those measures shouldn't have to be taken in general. I think it should just be legalized because I don't understand why the government feels the need to try and control women's bodies if it's not really affecting them. I mean, I know it's like one less life. I mean, overpopulation is already a problem anyway. Not to say kill all babies or all fetuses, obviously, I'm not saying that. But if the government tries to control women and makes every woman who gets pregnant have the baby, then it'll lead to more overpopulation. It could lead to illegal abortions, which yes are done by medical professionals, but sometimes women try and do at-home abortions if there aren't medical professionals that will perform that for them. And just in general, that could result. It gets really messy, and it can result in both the woman and the child dying, which is just it's just even worse than one or the other, if you know what I'm getting at. Like,
Wait, do you think that the unborn has like fewer rights than the woman? Like, do you think the unborn is like has fewer rights?
to be honest, I think that while the unborn should have some rights at a certain point when it should have rights, and having the right to live is something we all should have. But I think that the woman should have, it should go like this. The woman should have the top tier of, it's my body, so I should get to choose if I want to continue the pregnancy or not. And then the second tier is the right to live that everyone does have. But
Can you hear me?
if the right to live of a woman versus a clump of cells, like which one's gonna be higher in like importance, I guess, than the other?
What?
I think the
Well,
woman places higher as it's her body, and she is the one who has to carry the baby and go through birth.
so like, you think like the right to live increases by like age and size, like and development?
Yes. So
if you're like a 1-year-old
Dan.
compared to a 2-year-old, you're gonna be like, so that 1-year-old has more rights than the 2-year-old.
How about this, Dan? This is a better instance. So, is it okay for me to kill a fetus? Sorry, I worded that wrong. All right. Is it okay for me to kill a 6-year-old instead of you because it has less development and isn't as old as you? Would it be okay?
So that's what I was trying to like get at next. I realized that I didn't word what I was trying to say well enough, because then it sounded like you can go slaughter a 6-year-old and just let like a 50-year-old person live. So I mean, when it is still inside the womb and it is still considered a fetus, that is when it has lower rights than anything that has been born and is officially in this world as a person, rather than just inside somebody else, inside of a woman, if you know what I'm saying. When it's just a fetus and it's not even really in the world yet, it should have less rights than the woman carrying it.
All right. So the 7-inch cavity declares their rights. Apparently, that's what you mean.
I'm sorry, could you repeat what you said?
The 7-inch cavity declares their rights. So just geographical location, basically. It was, if I worded that wrong, sorry, but basically where they are, right? So if they're in the mother's womb and then they're out 7 inches, right? So is that just so that 7-inch area? So from the womb, I mean the uterus, or I don't even know, to the outside world, that declares the rights, the 7-inch cavity.
So let's see, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Yes, I'd say in general, yes. And I know it's just 7 inches. Why does that declare on if they get to live or die? Live or die. But when it's still dependent on the woman and it needs the woman to survive, you know what I'm saying?
Wait, what?
So
Wait, can
basically,
you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh my
he
god.
was just asking.
You can or no?
Yeah, we can hear you.
As you're saying about needing the mother to survive. Okay, so then I would say a 2-year-old needs the mother to survive and be dependent on. Because if I put a 2-year-old on the middle of the street and said, "Hey, go do your thing," they're not going to live. They don't have cat.
So
They don't
you
have
guys
money.
can.
You're glitching, Ella, but yeah, that is a fair point, and I agree with you. But I mean, when it's inside the mom, and she is like carrying it, she is feeding it like based off of her. Like it's not like it's outside of the womb, and she's just like giving it food, but it's literally feeding off of her, and it's living inside of her. The mom should get to choose, or the mom to be, or the woman in general should get to choose if she wants to continue the pregnancy. Like if like there was an 11-year-old in Argentina where abortions are illegal, who was raped, and she was forced to have the baby, and both the baby and her died. But if she was allowed to have an abortion, then she could have been saved.
Okay, I looked that up a couple weeks ago, and nothing ever came about that.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I looked that up. I recently looked that up. Nothing ever came up about that. The same thing with Ohio. Even the 12-year-old girl in Ohio. I don't think she ever died because there's nothing showing that she did.
Okay, so I'm just gonna check where I got the source for that just to be safe. Okay, so to be honest, I'm not sure why nothing came up, but when doing research about girls who have died from forced childhood, it's all where abortions are illegal, not in places where they are legal and their parents just force them. I mean, most of them, like in Argentina, where the 11-year-old girl, there were numerous articles about it. I can try and pull one up now to get the direct source from you because I didn't write it directly down, but I remember just seeing that. And I just think any abortion or any pregnancy caused by assault or rape in general shouldn't have to be continued if the woman doesn't want to, or any pregnancy in general, but especially those that were unwanted and forced, if you know what I'm saying. Like, it's one thing if you're reckless and you are
Just being young and dumb.
right. That's one thing. And then one could argue, you know what, maybe you deserve to get pregnant. I'm not saying either way, but it's different to be young and reckless than to be literally raped and not have a choice on if you got pregnant or
My
not.
issue with that argument is that's devaluing someone's life because they were unwanted. That's saying basically you're worthless because I didn't want you. So that's my issue with that.
Yeah, and most families like I forgot the ratio. It's in the 30s, 30 to like 1 for every adopted baby, like in an adoption center. So like obviously some parent or some couple would want it, no matter like what sex they are, whatever gender. They would obviously want it.
Yeah.
They're delivered right away from the adoption center.
Yeah, I do. Okay. So personally, I think adoptions are great. I mean, like, adopting someone is so noble, it's amazing. But for the children in the foster care system, like, it's a terrible life. A lot of them grow up to be victims of mental, physical, and sexual assault. They end up in bad homes. So I'm just right now, like, a lot of good is done with the foster care system, but it's really broken as well, which is why I still think that the woman should, like, would you rather have a child have like a horrible life and go through hardship and and a lot of kids in the foster care system, they end up taking their own lives because of everything. So would you rather just have like a little fetus that can't feel pain until a certain time and isn't really a person, just to be gone, just to disappear, and then to possibly save the woman's life and the child from a life of just hardship, depending on where it's from, or have like a child grow up and then just know that they were given away, that they weren't wanted, like growing up knowing that you weren't wanted and that you like by your birth parents, even if you weren't adopted, like even if your birth mom kept you, knowing that you weren't wanted isn't it's not a good way to grow up. I wouldn't think. I can't speak personally from experience, but growing up knowing that you weren't wanted and being given to somebody else, it's just, I don't think that would be a good way to grow up, to be completely honest.
Well, there's a difference between the adoption and the foster care system. So like you brought up adoption, but then you started talking about foster care, and it's like like a fallacy in itself. Like the adoption does not equal foster care system.
Mhm.
And the median age, I'm pretty sure the foster care system is like 6 or 7. So and yeah, the adoption system is way more efficient. And yeah, the foster care system definitely needs to get reformed. But like the adoption system is fine.
Yeah. I just, in general, it would just, like, it hurts me to think about all the children that were born, like, unwanted, and then if they were given away, growing up knowing that you were given away or that you were just not wanted rather than just not being born at all, it seems worse to grow up unwanted and know that, just feel like that. It's just, for me, that seems worse than just not existing at all. Also, Ella texted me and she said that the connection was really bad, so she had to leave. But she's watching.
All right, repeat what you said about how certain, like, so feeling you're unwanted and dying, right? So you'd rather die than feel unwanted. Is that what you
So
said?
I'd rather just not have existed as a person, rather than live my entire life knowing that I wasn't wanted or that I was given away, which kind of go hand in hand. But just growing up like that, and then, like, especially if you grow up in a really bad home that could end up being abusive or physically, mentally, sexually abusive anyway, or living your life in the foster care system, or just the foster care system, living your life there and then never being chosen / adopted, or going to live with a stable family, and then the people who grew up in the foster care system and then never made it out until they were adults, they end up going through a lot of mental illnesses, and a lot of them do take their own lives. So it ends up just being like their life ended anyway, except they had to go through a lot more pain, suffering, and hardship, and so did the mom, who may not even be alive at that point.
Wait, so can we get back to the personhood argument? Like, because I think we drifted away from that. I think that's like the key argument for the for the abortion debate. Like, so like personhood is defined as the quality or condition of being an individual person. And according to Princeton, a human being is formed at conception, not just a human life. This goes against your argument that the fetus possessing human life but not being considered a human being.
Okay, so just to start one thing off, which is not trying to discredit you or anything, but Princeton has been proved biased multiple times.
That's a genetic logical fallacy. meaning that I'm totally verbal here, but that genetic logical fallacy, just because something is biased doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong.
Methodology is like the key.
Yeah, methodology is the main thing.
Yo,
So,
yo, I think we should like Gus and bruh. We're doing pretty good.
If you're committing to okay.
Here, let's Gus this shit. I got Gus. Hold up.
All right, Claire, you can keep going.
okay, so relating to the fact of like being biased, I like for an example, you know how studies can be like 99% of scientists think this. Well, if you only survey like 10 scientists per se that are proven biased, then you're going to get biased results, which mean they're inaccurate.
Hold on.
And that
Well,
the statistics been
the general consensus, like, okay, let's say I surveyed 5,000 biologists, and 96% of them said, okay, life into conception. Okay, that wouldn't be wrong because it's a general consensus. Like, okay, so this many of them believe that. Okay, we can build we have a strong standing on this. Like, okay, a good majority stands on it, right? And I forget I don't know the number of the 96% study, but
Oh yeah, the 96% study. The responses came in like there's 5,337 biologists. Like 96% affirmed that a human life begins at fertilization. With only 240 biologists, 4% rejecting that view. So it's way more than like a general consensus. Like it's a general universal agreement that life begins at fertilization.
okay. And you know what? To be honest, I consider myself an open-minded person, and to be honest, I had not heard of I had heard of that study, but I didn't know the details. So thank you for letting me know about that, because honestly, I didn't know the details of that study. But the fact that the general consensus is that, you know what, I understand what the general consensus is, and for me, like I said, you know what? I would prefer if women didn't have abortions. You know what I mean? Like, not my favorite thing, but the main thing is the morality, not morality, the moral part of it, of how the government should not get to control a woman's body. A woman should get to control her own body. And that's just the part that I have the most trouble with, is the fact that other people are trying to control her body when it's her body. That's like saying, and then like trying to take away, I feel like it's a woman's right to have an abortion if she wants to, or if she needs to. So I feel like taking away a woman's right to have an abortion is just wrong. And then especially considering how angry a lot of people get if they feel like their Second Amendment is even threatened at all.
okay, see,
That's just my.
Yeah, abortion's not actually an amendment. It's not
abortion
in the Constitution at all.
Yeah, there. Yeah, so it's not part of the Constitution. The Supreme Court, Roe v. Wade was a Supreme Court ruling. Basically, the Supreme Court has a long history of interpreting the Constitution the wrong way, and they interpreted the Constitution as in letting women have an abortion. It's not an actual amendment, so that can be overturned any day of the week.
Yeah, I just mean, okay, I'm so sorry. I'm not exactly being clear, but just for me, I just want women to be able to have a choice on their own body. I don't want everyone to have an abortion, and I don't want everyone to have a child if it's going to kill them. I just want them to be able to choose if they want to have a child. And I'm not going to argue with you about facts, because there are so many facts out there, and they all can say different things, and they can all be proved. This one's wrong, that one's wrong. You know what I'm saying? I just, in general, want women to have a choice to their own body. That's just for me. I'm not going to sit here and be like, you know what, you guys are wrong and disrespect you. There's no point because you know what, we're all allowed to have our own views.
All right. The thing is, abortion being illegal, right? Okay. So your thing about uh, legalized abortion and it being bad. Well, okay. So here's my argument with this. So, um, do we legalize rape because it's going to be safer and cleaner for most people? It's the government can regulate it and get sex trafficking out. No, we don't because it's wrong, right? So our laws can be based off of morals, and the morals here are that homicide is not necessarily a right thing to do, right? And abortion is homicide. If you look at the definition, it's the killing of a human by killing of a human being by another, or just general killing of a human being, right? So I'm not trying to take away the right to a woman's body. I'm trying to take away their right to legal homicide.
Okay. So I just Googled the definition of abortion just to get the exact definition. But it just says the deliberate termination of a human pregnancy, most often performed.
Yeah, termination is another word for killing. Like this is the ending of a pregnancy.
The definition of homicide, that's a different thing
It's
because
just a nicer way to say it.
So, just out of curiosity, kind of like a comparison question. Would you say that, like, are either of you guys vegetarian, vegan, pescatarian, anything where you don't eat meat?
No.
And I'm just gonna do a quick comparison. Ella had actually made this one before. If we're allowed to eat eggs, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
So, Ella, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to make the point that you made, but vegans or not vegans, I'm sorry, vegetarians and a lot of people still will eat eggs when it's technically fertilized, but it's not developed enough to be a chick yet or a child yet.
Oh, yo, what's up? I guess I was trying to turn off my camera.
And I put Dan on here because Gus has been asking me to join.
Yes, sir. This is gonna be okay. Yeah, keep going, keep going.
So just, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I lost my train of thought again.
And so
I'm so sorry.
we're eating eggs.
Yeah.
I think what you're trying to say is that some vegans still eat fertilized eggs because they do not believe those fertilized eggs are morally equivalent to like a chicken or something.
Yeah, thank you. I'm losing my train of thought as it gets later. But yeah,
Right.
so it's still kind of
Okay.
along the same lines.
So the problem I have with that is that the eggs you get at a grocery store are not fertilized. I mean,
Mhm.
some of them are, but the vast majority of them are not. And when you get some of them that are, like people don't eat those because you crack them open and like blood comes out and shit. So people don't eat that. Like in the main difference between eating a the main difference between eating a chicken egg and killing the unborn is that a chicken egg is not like a chicken being, right? A chicken egg is not necessarily an organism. It's equivalent to a body cell, right? A body cell of the chicken. Similar to how like a woman's egg cell before it's fertilized is equivalent to like equivalent to like a body cell because those things are not organisms. But at fertilization, what happens is a new being is formed, right? I'll see if I can find my the quote here. I think I have it saved to my computer, but it's from Peter Singer. He's a uh hang on, is this it? No, it's not. Here, I'll just kind of talk for a second. So he's um he's a pro-choice philosopher, and I'm pulling up his quote right now. I found it. And he wrote in his book Practical Ethics, where he not only defends abortion up until birth, but he defends infanticide up to 1 week after birth. And he says, and I quote, "It is possible to give meaning to human being a precise meaning. Sorry, it is possible to give human being a precise meaning, we can use it as equivalent to a member of the species Homo sapien. Whether you're a member of a given species is something that can be determined by scientifically by examining the nature of the chromosomes in the cells of the living organism. In this sense, there is no doubt from the first moments of its existence, an embryo conceived from human sperm and human egg is a human being. So if so that's the main problem I have with your argument that you're making, is because you're not necessarily comparing realistic things, and so you're not necessarily comparing the same thing or similar things, really. I I would see eating an unfertilized chicken egg to be equivalent to me like scraping skin cells off of my body, because the
Mm.
skin cells on my body are not organisms in a similar way that an unfertilized egg is not an organism. And then eating a fertilized chicken egg, because apparently that's like a lean cuisine in some places. And it's like a full on bird in there, like
Mhm.
feathers and all. No, not feathers, but and I would consider that to like the moral equivalency of like eating a chicken wing, for example. But like you killed the chicken because you're kind of like just taking an egg and then eating it. But yeah, so that's the main problem I have with your argument.
Yeah. Um, I'm sorry, it wasn't clear. I was more referring to like the fertilized eggs, like you were talking
Oh,
about. But yeah.
I would certainly not eat a fertilized egg,
Mm-mm.
and like no one eats fertilized eggs except for some. I forget what cultures eat those.
I'm gonna Google it.
I think it's some Asian cultures. Fertilized eggs.
Yeah, it's Chinese
Oh my
traders and
god.
immigrants.
Oh my god, that is terrifying. People. Okay.
Can you imagine just opening your egg, like thinking it's like, I feel like that would be me by accident. I'd open an egg thinking it's just like a normal egg, and then it's just, mm-mm.
That is literally a bird. Oh my god. That is. Oh my god.
Let's go back on
Literally
the
a bird.
abortion topic.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I am.
Instead of talking about, cracking the necks and seeing a chicken.
Yeah. That is terrifying. As far as the controlling women's bodies thing, right, is not necessarily everything someone does with their body is good and should remain legal, right? For example, no, I'm not going to use that example because I'm in a public chat. There are plenty of things I could do with my body, right, that are not correct and should not be legal. For example, if I like went to the public park and started like rubbing like my ass in people's faces, well, I did that with my body, but it's still public indecency, and I'm harming others by rubbing my voluptuous ass in their face, right? So great. So not necessarily everything someone does with their body is good and should remain legal, because I think the government should regulate that, because you are causing harm to another person. And then bringing that back to the abortion debate, when you abort a fetus, you are terminating the life of that you're terminating the life of the fetus, right? And some definitions of abortion say just terminating a pregnancy. But if you do not specify that you terminate the pregnancy by intentionally killing the unborn or the child, then you would include C-sections in abortion, because under that definition, a C-section is a termination of a pregnancy. But I wouldn't want to outlaw C-sections, right? Because a C-section doesn't result in the end of someone else's life. In the vast majority of cases, it's definitely not intended for that. Or births would be considered abortions if it was, because those end a pregnancy. So if we don't specify terminating a pregnancy with the by ending the life of the unborn, then the definition's flawed. Even though sometimes terminating a pregnancy is the definition used in medical communities, it's still a flawed definition.
Yeah, I agree. Because, I mean, yeah, I agree with you with the fact that terminating the pregnancy should be more specific, because like you said, like having a C-section, actually giving birth, you're ending the pregnancy, but you're not
Yeah.
killing the thing inside or ending the life inside of the woman. You're just, well, not always. Sometimes there are complications with childbirth, but you know what I'm saying.
Have you guys discussed personhood at all? I just kind of joined
Mhm.
minutes ago. Did you guys reach a consensus on that, or?
On what?
on
Personhood.
personhood.
I'm not sure.
I feel like our in general consensus was like around the third trimester when it can start feeling pain, even though it is under anesthesia, but when it could feel pain if it were to be able to. I think we kind of were.
At least me and Dan's consensus was conception because, yeah, it was
The
conception.
the, the, the,
Consensus.
pro- the problem I have with the ability to feel pain is what I like to do is when someone gives me a definition of personhood, there are 3 steps that I do. One, I try to apply it to animals. So your definition of personhood, the ability to feel pain or something, that would apply to like rats or
Yeah.
dogs or something, right? Or the ability to feel, or I compare it to, sorry, I apply it to people who we would consider persons and try to find people who do not fit that criteria. So, like with your definition, someone with congenital insensitivity to pain, right? Because then those people wouldn't be persons, and I think we can agree that people with congenital insensitivity are persons.
Mhm.
And then the final thing I do is if they try to say, if instead of someone who can feel pain, or instead of someone who is conscious, they say it's a human being that is conscious, I try to apply that definition to Yoda from Star Wars, because I think Yoda from Star Wars is a person, even though he's not necessarily human. Or I used to use Luke Skywalker, but then those turned into debates about Star Wars lore and the species of Luke Skywalker. But we can observe that Yoda is not of the human species.
Mhm.
So the problem with your definition is that it violates the first two, where it is, you cannot apply it to people with congenital insensitivity, and you can also apply it to like rats and birds, and like even ravens or chimpanzees under your definition would be persons.
Mhm. Sorry, I forgot to mention. I brought up a couple other things back then, which and also that's a great way for telling like your 3-step process. I I like that. It's really creative and it makes a lot of sense. I also talked about like having a heartbeat and not just like a little flutter at 6 weeks where the heart will be, but an actual heartbeat, and a having advanced brain activity of like human species brain activity, where if you looked at the fetus, it would have an advanced enough brain activity that it's considered a human. If you know what I'm saying, it's hard to explain.
So the problem I have with that is that someone who's under general anesthesia, right?
Mm-hmm.
General anesthesia pretty much shuts down like the cognitive part of their brain, the part that feels pain, the part that like rations, and all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if that's the case, someone under general anesthesia has the other two characteristics that you named, but well, actually they don't have the ability to feel pain because that part of the brain is shut
Yeah.
down. So then someone under general anesthesia would only have three. Sorry, it would only have one out of your 3 criteria. But I still think that people under general anesthesia are persons.
Yeah, I agree. I'm you can probably tell I'm not the best at describing always what I mean, but
That's all right.
and then but yeah, I think we can agree that like people under general anesthesia and people I forgot the name of the disorder, mutation, disease, whatever you want to call it, where they can't
Congenital
feel pain.
insensitivity.
Mhm. Yeah. We can agree that they're people too. I think another trait for me is that they're not dependent on another life source, I guess. So,
Mhm.
which could be put to the test of like people with comas, right? That
Or
are
like
in a coma.
Siamese twins.
Mm-hmm. But and they're still people, but I think the ability to, aside from mutations, whatever you want to call them, the ability to function as your own individual, and when you have brain activity, some respiratory activity, and some heartbeats, a real heartbeat, and can feel pain not under anesthesia. That's kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but that's kind of what I consider personhood. Should we talk about the people protesting outside of abortion clinics? I don't know if Luna Marie is still here. Are you still here?
It's just 15 minutes past. That people can do whatever. I personally don't care. You can do whatever.
People protesting
Yeah.
outside abortion clinics. I actually don't know about that. I don't know what they're doing. Hopefully, they're being nice to people, but unfortunately, I doubt that.
Yeah, I think she's referring to Luna. I don't know if you're still here, but you can just say something in the chat if you are. But people, I haven't seen it firsthand, but I have seen like videos and news reportings. Pro-lifers in general, or people just against abortion in general, tend to stand outside of Planned Parenthood or abortion clinics in general, and they have signs and they scream at anybody who enters, and in general they're just nasty. So I think that's what she's getting at, is the fact that while pro-choicers aren't necessarily being disrespectful and protesting outside of, I don't know, churches or something, saying you teach pro-life, okay, good. Not saying like you teach pro-life and so you're horrible. I think what Luna you may be getting at is the fact that pro-lifers are being directly disrespectful, and someone may not even be going into Planned Parenthood to have an abortion. They could be having a consultation session. There's a lot of other things that Planned Parenthood does that aren't abortions. So the fact that people are out there protesting and screaming at the people walking in, I think is just a problem,
I have a few really good pro-life books. And they talk about these people.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say, actually, I guess 4 of them talk about these people. Yeah, they are. They do not represent the pro-life movement. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, well, unfortunately, they do because they're loud and obnoxious. But I can assure you, they do not put forward the proper values that should be taught in the pro-life movement. I have a book called it's called like Why Pro-Life.
Mm-hmm.
Why Pro-Life, Caring for the Unborn and Their Mothers, and it's by Randy Alcorn, right? And God, oh my God, that's not cool. Yeah, so and it and all of these books really disavow that. So to those people, I would just say, you are not helping anyone when you stand outside of abortion clinics and yell at people. You should be providing alternatives.
Yeah, I am so sorry, Luna, and I'm so sorry for your sister. It's horrible that happens. And you know what? On both sides, there are always bad people. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional a little bit because it hurts my soul to see stuff like that. I mean, young kids, children. I personally have people in my family who have gone through, they were raped, and luckily they were young enough. I think they were, one of them was 2 and the other was like 4. They were raped by their own father and their father's friend. And they weren't able to carry a child, luckily. I mean, they were so little. But
Yeah, no.
but the fact that if they had been able to have a child in that, like, nobody knows their situation. Like, you could be walking into Planned Parenthood because you were young and dumb, I think as Conde put it earlier. But, or you could be in there because you were raped. Or you could be in there because, just frankly, you were trying to have a child, and then it turned out that the person you were trying to have a child with turned out to be abusive. Like if you were in a relationship and you got pregnant, and even if it was consensual, if it was like an abusive relationship and you did not want to be tied to that person, like you don't know someone's situation. So just standing out there, people standing out there, like, yelling all of that stuff. Okay, 5 minutes. Just yelling all that stuff. I don't believe that's a true representation of the pro-lifers, because I do believe that they are doing what they believe is right. Not those ones. I mean, they are, but like it's not really right. But you know what I'm saying. And like some pro-choicers are out there, like, what's the word? Trashing Christians and trashing pro-lifers, being like, you follow God, blah, 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 blah. That's dumb. Yeah. So it's just like, so on both sides, there are good and bad people. I am personally a Christian pro-choicer. Kind of weird, I know, but like, I'm not going to go out there and be like, you know what? Because you're pro-life, that must mean you're a crazy, Christian or whatever you want to say. And pro-lifers, like, you guys both seem really cool. I don't think you'd go out there and scream at somebody trying to walk into Planned Parenthood, if you know what I'm saying. Like, it's not an accurate representation of either side.
I'm I'm looking for the part of my book. I think I thought it was part of persuasive pro-life, but that's possibly not true. It talks about this. Um, maybe this will work.
Gosh, you dead ass don't have a book in your hands right now, do you?
No, I have it on my computer.
Bro, I just heard like flipping pages.
That's what I heard. I heard the pages flipping, and I thought you were looking through, and
And
you're
I
like,
thought you licked your finger. You're like flipping pages.
it's like the dedication.
I'm looking for the thing, but that's I can't really find it. So I thought it was part of a book called Persuasive Pro-Life by Trent Horn. He's a Catholic apologist, Art of Students for Life, and I'm almost certain he wrote about this before, but I don't know when or where. So like basically he talked about how it's important to not be angry at people getting abortions or to not be angry at doctors who are giving abortions. And this is definitely something that, if any pro-lifers are listening, then just remember this. Someone can engage in a morally wrong action without being immoral themselves, right?
Mhm.
You can like if you were I don't want to use the example given in this book because I remember this example given and it talks about incest, which is pretty whack, and I don't want to talk about that. But um uh like someone can engage in an action that is morally wrong, like incest, but if they don't know or understand that it's morally wrong, then it's important to not be upset at those people because they did not do something that they knew was morally wrong and they are still good people, right?
Yeah.
It's a similar thing that I think a lot of pro-lifers definitely need to. That I think it's the important thing that a lot of pro-lifers definitely need to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think everyone's morals are different. I mean, I don't even think I know. Everyone's morals are somehow different. It's even if I completely agree with someone with the pro-choice argument, we could completely disagree on the morals about I don't know, stepping on your dog's paw. Just like somebody could
Oh,
think it's fine, but just
I think most of us would agree. Not cool.
yeah. But then some people are out there like, haha, hurt animals or whatever. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Everybody's moral compass or line is blurry compared to other people's, if you know what I'm saying. So like I think what we all have to do is just keep our morals, like follow our own morals, but by doing so, make sure you aren't making anybody else feel bad for their own different set of morals. Like that could be for like the LGBTQ community, which I know isn't exactly on topic, but like if someone personally is like straight and they're homophobic, not my favorite thing, but you know what? If you're not out there harassing people like Pride Fall is supposed to happen tomorrow, which I think is horrible, then you know what? Keep your morals to yourselves. That's the thing. If you're keeping your morals to yourselves and you're not hurting anybody by what you're doing and what you believe in, then you know what? That's fine. I think I just went on a bit of a rant, but I hope you understood what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I see what you're getting at. I think the debate's about to end.
Oh crap!
Is
Mhm.
Khan still
No,
here?
you're good. I mean, somebody said keep it under an hour. We just went over.
Oh, that
Okay,
was
well,
me.
I
I'm
wanna.
good. I'm good.
Okay, you're good. I mean, not just like just chatting, but I'll end it now.
Yeah, I'm good now.
Yo, Gus, can you hook me up with a debate on like economics? Something like not abortion.
What?
Do you know anybody that would be down to debate like economics?
I only debate abortion. It's what I've been
Do
reading
you have
up
like,
on
any
recently.
socialist buddies?
What?
Do you have like any socialist homies? Bernie bros?
I have a communist friend named Wes. but
Oh,
he's probably
I don't know
communist.
communists. I can't. They're too smart for me. You
Yeah,
see,
some communists are. It's kind of like a spectrum. You got, capitalist Chad, and then beta socialist, and then communist Chad. It's horseshoe theory confirmed.
Josiah's live, guys. All right, I'm gonna end this now because there's no point. That was a good debate. I don't know if I'm posting this because. Oh,
It was kind of
exactly.
cringe.
Good debate, everyone.
That was fun.
Bruh.
Come on, guys.